We're going to win. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We got everything we need to win. I got you and you got me. That's all we need to win. Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. We gonna keep on walking. We gonna keep on talking, marching up to freedom's land. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna keep my hand on the plow until I get my 40 acres and a tractor. I don't need a mule no more. I need 40 acres and a tractor. I need 40 acres and a tractor. As a matter of fact, just give me my tractor and my mule, because I deserve it. Oh, yes. Harambee. 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 Harambee means let's pull together. Harambee. 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 Oh, Lordy. Harambee. Harambee. If you don't remember nothing else in this conference, remember Harambee. Harambee. Let's pull together. Let's pull together. They say if you keep on repeating it, it sinks down in your soul. So Harambee. 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 You believe it? Oh, and we'll go home to our ancestors and be free. Glory. Harambee. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess that's my speech. Fired up. Fired up. Fired up. Fired up. Fired up. Fed up. Fed up. Fired 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 up. Yeah, I know y'all was tired, but y'all fired up now. Y'all fired up, ready to go. Not ready, we ready to go. In the voice of our ancestors, we fired up and ready to go. Yeah, ready to go. Ready to get in some good trouble with some good fire. Fired up. Ready to go. Yeah, don't say ready. Take too much time. Ready to go. Fired up. Fired up. Fired up. Fired up. Fired up. Fired up. Fired up.
Red go.
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 Fired up. Because we're going to have to be fired up. Fired up.
Red go.
This thing is heavy. It's traumatic. It's dramatic. So we got to be fired up. We got to have that fire way deep down in our souls. So when we get ready to give up, because it just done got too much, we remember that old woman with the white rag on her head said, we fired up, fired up, fired up, fired up. Oh, yes. We fired up. We fired up. For our children, we fired up. Fired up for our elders. We fired up. Fired up for our communities. We fired up. Fired up for our neighborhoods. We fired up. We fired up. We fired up. Fired up. See, you have to just keep putting it in there. So one day you walking into that city council meeting, and that one you don't want to go in because you've been elected and you got to go, that's your assignment. Just chant in your head, I'm fired up. I'm fired up. Fired up.
Do I have permission to?
Fired up.
Ready to go.
Let the church say amen.
Amen.
Oh, yeah.
Do I have permission to speak?
Oh, yeah. Come on, baby.
Ashe. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This was everything that we needed to close out this session, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you. So this conversation was meant to weave all that we have discussed the last 2 days together. And we couldn't have been in a better way to have Dr. McClain open us up in this way. Because even last night we talked about, we wanted to ensure that your spirit was filled. When you come out of here, and I'm talking to every level of government, for the civil servant career and also political appointees that are still in this room, even right now, I hope that you take the spirit of this convening into your heart and with you as you travel back to wherever is home. Because to do this work as someone who has worked at every level of government, I also know how hard it is to allow for the system to work for all of us. And that you sit alone in rooms trying to advocate for all of us who's in this room. But the system was designed to support only a few of us. And so this convening is not just for all of the community members in this room, but this is for all of us. We have to have spaces like this so that we can remember. As a cultural bearer who practices the art of remembering. And I want to bring, I asked Benny Starr to come back up because he talks so beautifully about the fact that we are remembering people. When we don't have the words to really truly express what is happening, how do we show up, the Spirit knows, and we talked about that last night. The reason why we have ensured that we have built in culture into everything that we are doing as part of this convening is that when we don't remember what the billions, trillions, which programs, how to navigate it, invest.gov, build.gov, cleanenergy.gov, you will remember that you were in this room and that was something that was said and shared, and you will go back to the emails and try to find the documents. But in your heart, you will know that you have been called for such a time as this to answer a very specific call for this generation. And that's why I had to bring Zora's name in. That's why we asked permission before we start something from the elders, because this is a 7-generation conversation. I don't know if we will get another $4 trillion investment. And when we build, and when we've had to build, it's been from a place where we have had nothing. But because we are spiritual beings, we have found the strength to create. And that's why we said, and when Benny opened, he said, you know, we are creative people. We create, we make, we build. We can talk about the destruction, the barriers, what it means to, you know, do all of these pieces in terms of how we burn down the system. But we still have to have the space to imagine what is possible for us. What can we build? And with $4 trillion, I hope that we can radically imagine something different for ourselves, wherever we are in our space. And so even as Communities First has this conversation, we didn't enter in from a water or transportation, wherever you're entering, there is $4 trillion. You can decide where you want to build. But please leave here with the commitment to try to build something different in whatever space you influence. As we started even yesterday, we explained you all are the influencers of influencers. That's how you got the invite into this room. Whether you are federal, state, local, whether you are a community-based organization, private sector leader, philanthropic leader, you are the folks that folks see as the operatives operating in the space trying to effectuate change. So this panel was meant to bring all the parts together, because we all have to play a role. From the most local level of a community-based organization, if all your budget is under 6 figures, what does it look like to organize and strategize? What does it look like to build in a regional function as a community-based organization? And Lamisha, when I think about what you have done with Democracy Green, I'm also just thinking about what it means to build the civic infrastructure and civic society component that we were talking about even in the last panel. Dr. McClain, as you are now shifting to say, what does it look like for the region, for us to build in a different way together? What is the conversation that we need to have? Benny, I really wanted you to bring in the fact that we are people who, when we have nothing, we can still build something. And how do we tap into that? At the state level, what does it look like when we're having this conversation, Charles, for Kentucky, right? I didn't bring up, I said, let's go to a place where it can go either way. And we talked about this being a bamboo moment. And that if we build the right relationships even right now, regardless of who's in office, they can try to uproot us. But they can't, because of the interconnected root system that we are going to commit to over these next few years. And then, Christopher, I asked you to come back because we really do need to continue to think about what is the role that we need to play with government. And you see how far it takes to get there. We're not confused. We understand that you have to take several steps to build out what we are talking about. But in this room, you have every component to do that work. And the only thing that's missing is the philanthropic component, entering Communities First. But this is the place that we see as, when we talk about the roadmap for progress, we're gonna need every last one of us to make this work. With that, I'm hoping that each of you may just take a moment to, and our time is a bit limited, but I don't wanna limit the spirit, so let us flow. But really think about, what do you see as kind of a key component? I appreciate Irene. She was like, here's the assignment. Here's what else you should do before you leave here. But you all are playing a very specific role, and I'm hoping that you can both talk briefly about your work, but more importantly, what can we take as an offering that you may be able to make to everyone in this room that we can take back as we leave this convening and thinking about what is the roadmap for progress for the South?
That's right, that's right. Well, I appreciate this. First, Dr. McClain, Elder McClain, thank you for pouring into me. In this moment, you don't even understand. Like nearly a year ago, I lost my matriarch, and that was my grandmother. And one of her favorite songs was Wade in the Water. And every spiritual that rang down out of you today, that's what we would sing. So what we bring in this space is our legacy. It is our legacy for fight. It's who we are. When you pull from the bowels and you said, we get ready. We were born ready because of elders who pour into us. So that's first honor is, first of all, if you don't bring honor into space and dignify and value those who have done this work way long before we've been here, you're not doing anything. Now, why do I say that? Because you keep recycling a wheel of trying to be inventive and create new grant proposals, these federal funds that are coming down. We see national organizations that ain't been about us, haven't been about us for years. All of a sudden it's using our language, using our songs, and using our Negro spirituals to evoke an actual revolution. But the revolution is in the people. And let's be very clear, these dollars are not because someone was benevolent. It is not because someone felt in the depths of their heart that they need to actually have morality. It is because the people protested. It has been 41 years since environmental justice. So it is our money. Let me explain something. It is our money. It is what is due us. It is what is due our elders for pouring into us. It is what we have been talking about for 41 years with the environmental justice movement, honor to the elders and the ancestors. It's what we've been talking about since the civil rights movement of the 60s and the Voting Rights Act and the Fair Housing Act that didn't come about until the assassination of Dr. King. But honey, the first Civil Rights Act wasn't the 1960s, it was the 1800s. So what I'm here to let you know is the long arc of justice is because we stood up. So what I'm leaving with you today is, as a local organization that grew from volunteers, we had $0. And we all worked for organizations, and we got sick and tired of asking for grant dollars to go feed our people. You want us to go out and vote, honey. We're not just voters, we're people who have the constitutional right to vote. That is what we are. We are stakeholders. We are shareholders. We are board members of the United States Corporation. That's what we are. I'm a full owner. And when I understand that after Reconstruction, we voted 187 people, black people, into office in North Carolina, I already know what we're doing. When I know that in the face of those 187, we were lynched and our homes were burned, and then there were laws of redlining and Jim Crow, and then there were toxic waste dumped on us from Henry T. Ford Motors and World War II. We're talking about Flint, Michigan, honey. That was dumped in Henry T. Ford 1900s. That was their waste. Our legacy of impact is also matching our legacy of fight. So when we came together as volunteers with Democracy Green, it was because we were working, we've been hired at these national organizations, these local organizations. I come from community. I'm from Morganton, North Carolina, Blue Ridge Mountains. My mama's to the left, and she's an executive director. I was raised in this fight. You feel me? And so there's no other obligation but to do what we're doing, because somebody got to do it. And so when we came together, it was in Hurricane Florence with this man right here, Courtney Patterson. It was with Adrian Kennedy and Shalonda Regan. It was with, you better stand up, Mr. Angus. You better come through. It was with Mr. Richard. And I know I'm going to keep going through this room. These are the people in this room that I can't be here without these people. They trusted me. And from Democracy Green, yes, in 2022, because we've been doing hurricane relief, we rescued literally 250 people out of the water during Hurricane Florence. And then we were like, guess what? The water's contaminated. And then we filed a petition because we paired with an organization that could pay for the attorney. We couldn't afford one. But we had to use our research because there wasn't no research, so we conducted it. First research in the nation on PFAS and environmental justice. Now it's published in the CDC clinical guideline, not because they believed in us, because nobody else had done it first. We had to do it. Okay. And now here we are with these federal dollars. We took that research that happened out of Hurricane Florence. We took that mobilization, and guess what we did? We sat down and we said, here comes some ARPA funds. What we're going to do is, our folks don't know what this language means. We're going to do jargonizing. Then we're going to work in collaboration. So Democracy Green with Black Alliance, with Conservation Network, with DEQ. We literally put on a webinar in the middle of a pandemic and said, we're going to do what it takes to get our people online. If it needs hot spots, we're going to do it. If it need to be fed and a gift card after the Zoom ends, we're going to do it. And then we gave printouts. We mailed them and we put them in email inboxes. And those printouts had the details of the funds in their language, not the language of the government. And then we introduced them to DEQ. And in 6 months, we were able to help the town of Ivanhoe, who had been fighting the long arc of justice for 20 years with no water infrastructure, no clean water. In 6 months, they got $13 million to connect. And now that community of 300 predominantly black folks will have water infrastructure for the first time in the history. We are replicating that. We've educated, we've been in community with over 500 leaders this year alone in Brunswick County, the #1 hotspot for PFAS, because in order to fill out grant applications, you have to know your actual issue. You have to know the name of the condition, not just what's in your body, but what put it in your body. You have to name it down. That's a science we provide. We dejargonize it. We don't have to collect with academic institutions. They now have to collect with us. And I teach at NC State. So I'm saying this as I'm saying it. And then we go into community, we help them fill out those grant applications, sometimes for volunteer, but sometimes because of the support of folks in this room, we now have the funding to build that capacity. And the goal is to build it for everybody, not just us. Amen. So if I can leave here today and pass it on so I'm not taking up too much time, it is just simply to wake up to who you are and to whose you are, because we have done this every generation. And the money may be new, but the power is not. The mobilization is not.
You've been working, even last week you done brought folks together.
Well, I tell you. Let's give her a hand of applause. So I can collect my thoughts. In my hand, I have what you young people call, this a jump drive or some kind of
Yes,
drive?
a flash drive.
Okay, that's one of them.
Stick drive.
Okay. And on this is a draft of the Southeast Environmental Justice 10-year, I didn't say 10 days or 10 weeks or 10 months. I said 10-year strategic action plan to address environmental justice and climate change impacts. We've been working on this for about a year. We've had 3 convenings. Our last one was last week at Spelman, where we have asked communities to come together to build collective power to achieve justice. Can you say that? Build collective power.
To achieve justice.
Build collective power.
To achieve justice.
Build collective power.
To achieve justice.
Like you mean it. Build collective power.
To achieve justice.
Build collective power.
To achieve justice.
That's our assignment. And all of you in this room are invited to participate in this collective effort, this collective moment to achieve justice.
That's right.
So with me, I want you to say, our moment.
Our moment.
Our movement.
Our movement.
Our moment.
Our moment.
Our movement.
Our movement.
So what I want to leave with you, because they got all this good stuff and I just got some stuff. And so I want you to be a part of this particular heavy lift. It is the first time in history that I know of, and I've been on the plow for about 61 years. It is, how many of you here is over 61? Raise your hand. Ain't too many, so since you were born, I've been on it. So, we want all of you all to be a part of this building of this plan. This is historic. We have never sat down and did long-range planning, Sister Melanie. And because of the high funds, belief, and investment, we're going to stop calling them sponsors, because we ain't sponsoring nothing. You're investing in saving mama, which we call Earth. And we in the black community, we took it a little bit further from the Five Finger Clan and talks about the 9th generation, something we ain't never gonna see. We might. And so it is your assignment to join me in this little blue thing. I am not technical at all. But what we did is we got it on the way that the young people needed. We had a program, we put it in the booklet, and we're going to send you a link. So any way you want it, we're going to give it to you. Any way you want it, we're going to give it to you so that you can see yourself in this plan. And what we're going to do in the next 6 months, and I'm going to shut up, is that we're going to convene state circles. So you can review this plan, analyze it, give us some feedback, fluff it up, beat it up, change it so that it reflects you. So that when I say you're in, you're in. Now, we come from the Harriet Tubman clan, y'all. I ain't going to lie about it, and you know about Harriet. If you went on the Underground Railroad with her, there was no way you was going to get off before you got the freedom, and the only way you was going to get off was in a body bag. Because girlfriend carried a 44, and she said, if you want to go back, baby, you going to go back there because you ain't going to go tell on us. She went to get a husband. Husband went there, and the little long girl, they all wrap up in the quilt that she made. She said, I come to get you to go to freedom. He said, girl, if you don't get off this porch, I'm going to tell Massa. She said, that's all right. Just pass my quilt out that door, and I'll be gone. We're on the Underground Railroad. And the only way off is in a body bag. If you try to get off. Now, we know some of y'all just going to naturally die. That's okay. We're going to give you your due. We're going to give you we're going to fix you up. But if you try to jump off before your assignment is over,
Come on.
oh, I feel for you.
Come on.
We're going to rough you up where you can't go back and tell on us. Because that way you going headed back up to that master house where they done colonialize you and everything. That's okay. But I want y'all to know that there's a long road ahead.
That's right.
But look around this room. You got everything you need. I got you. I think that was sharing them and Sonny talking. I got you, babe. I got you, babe. I don't need no summer and whatever they were saying, because I got you. And so when you leave here, talk about, I got you, babe.
Got you, babe.
I got you, babe.
Got you, babe.
It's our moment.
It's our moment.
It's our movement.
It's our movement.
It's our time. Ooh, y'all got me fired up. I'm going to have to take this turtleneck off. I'm ready to rumble. Ooh, I'm ready to rumble. I was up at the White House yesterday, scared me to death. Called me on the phone, talking about, come on up here. I almost didn't answer the phone because I don't answer no number I don't know. And the girl called me, talking about, this the White House. I said, what house is that? She said, the White House, the real. I said, the White House? She said, yeah, the White House. And they want us to come on up there and talk about. Oh. The White House called me. Oh, they wanted me to come on up there and talk. I said, ooh, the White House, what they want? And I went on up there and I told them that we was building collective power to achieve justice. And I ain't backing down. And so if you don't want me to tell you the truth, don't invite me. They said, okay, we hear you. We hear you. I said, you know, it's easy to do that one because everybody always say they're his, and then when they get out the door, we don't see them no more. Ooh, I ain't talking about nobody in here, Ipe.
So,
you powerful. You know you powerful.
just being an artist up here, you know, it wasn't too long ago when an artist wouldn't even be in this room or maybe not have been invited in the room.
That's right.
So I think what I feel is this must be what Marvin was singing about in Detroit when he said, you know, those inner city blues make him want to holler.
Come on.
It feels like what Teddy Pendergrass was singing about in Philadelphia International, what Aretha was singing about in Detroit, what Nina Simone must have been singing about in North Carolina, Tryon, North Carolina,
Come on.
or the great John Coltrane from Hamlet, North Carolina. It must have been what Muddy Waters was doing when he traveled up from Mississippi up to Chicago with that electric guitar. The jazz musician Marcus Roberts said, the reason jazz music is so sophisticated is because of the spiritual need of American people to generate aesthetic solutions for the problems that we encounter in our adulthood. So we need Bach, and we need Beethoven, and we need Duke Ellington, and we need Coltrane, and we need Jimmy Rollins. We need all these people. We needed Sam Cooke. We need Gladys Knight. We needed that. We needed art. When I say that creativity, and I've been in a room with you all day in the breakouts, and I listen to you, and I see, and I remember that you must be a creative people, because creativity requires the ability for us to remember. Scientifically, you cannot remember, you cannot imagine without remembering.
Come on.
Scientifically, the hippocampus is responsible for memory, and the hippocampus is responsible for imagination. So when I talk about creativity and seeing the connectivity in all of what has been mentioned today, we're talking about the black farmland that has been stolen systematically from farmers, and we're talking about our ability to have land to build solar farms. I'm hearing people talking about the water, and I think contextually about the water that brought us over here is the same water they tried to use to kill us, the same water that is full of contaminants. I'm hearing all the connective tissue between health and wellness and our spiritual well-being, and what I'm telling you is when I quote Matthew Fox, saying that creativity is divine intimacy, I'm saying it is divine closeness that flows through us, and it is bigger than we are. And it urges us to the edge to grow larger. What I'm saying is it tethers us to our humanity. It tethers us to our humanity. When Marcus Roberts talks about the spiritual need to create aesthetic solutions, when I think about aesthetics, I think about beauty. When I think about beauty, I think about nature. And when I think about nature, I think about our environment. And guess what? We were environmentalists before the environmentalist movement was white. We were farming the land, and we were growing organic agriculture before they were selling us organic agriculture in the grocery store. We were healers before Johns Hopkins.
Come on.
What I'm trying to explain to you is that creativity that is a divine intimacy in all of us. Don't silo it away in your programs and in your strategies and your approaches. Integrate your arts and cultural strategies and your arts and cultural partners into everything that you're doing. It will continue to be the bridge that bridges one generation to the next generation, and that's the only way we're going to get this done.
That's right.
That's the only way we're going to get this done. Creativity will tether us to our humanity. It is divine intimacy, and in that spirit, we have seen what happens when many are gathered. Thank you.
I'm supposed to follow all of that. Okay. Well, I need to honor the room. I'm blessed to be in this moment. We are all blessed to be in this moment. I realize, and even just listening, that we're talking about restoration. We are talking about the healing, the progress that we want, but for us to even conceptualize the fact that we deserve it is healing in and of itself. And so I'm being healed right now by just imagining what we can do. And I am overwhelmed with hope because the power is in us. So we were encouraged today just to wrap it all together. One, to understand the story that brought us here. To remember that the power is in us. Thankfully, there's this historic allocation that we can leverage. But before that, we were doing the work.
That's right.
After that, because it ain't really, it's a lot of money, but it'll be gone. And we will still have to do the work.
That's right.
And brother, you lifting up the power of our humanity, which is really the essence of community. And when I think about how if we do this work, and I'm going to bring it to the role that I'm in now, I wear a whole lot of hats. And some of y'all may have seen me wear some of my hats on national television, but most recently now I'm in the office of the governor in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And if you all have been looking at the political cycle this year, you'll note that in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, a Democrat won for governor in a state that has been dominated by hate and racism that's been mostly weaponized most recently. In the Republican Party, it is not a partisan thing, but let's be clear about what's been manifesting up front. And it was in the face of someone who was my former classmate who understood the hue of his skin and used it to exploit his own people. Wow. And the way that we won in the face of all of that was by making the types of investments we're talking about in this convening. And so while we are stressing over the necessity of this work and the heaviness of it, and it is hard, there are a lot of structural barriers that are put in place to make sure we aren't successful. We got to beat up against those every single day. I just wanted to give you a little bit of hope from a personal lens that it is still possible. Now, the guy that I work for, he's a nice guy. Andy Bashir, he's the governor of Kentucky. He is a good guy. He didn't win merely because he's a nice guy. It matters to be nice. He won, we won, because he understood that with all of these federal dollars coming down, where a lot of states, a lot of governors are reticent or in opposition because they're playing politics, he said, well, look, whether this costs me my election or not, the people of Kentucky, it's one of the poorest states in the country, deserve investment, and communities that have been marginalized deserve deep investment. So I'm going to take every single dollar they give us and put it into the ground. And so over the last couple of years, he's been passing out these big blue checks for water infrastructure, for broadband, for targeted economic development in communities like my own. I'm from the hood in West End of Louisville. And when I see how powerful that is, that when you make the investment in people, one, it's the right thing to do. But two, when you do it and they see, okay, the government can actually work for me, well, let me go vote. Let me go show up. And then next thing you know, you done proved the whole country wrong.
Come on.
So I just want to remind us that not only are we doing good because it's the right thing to do, when we do good, when we lift up justice, we win. Fighting for justice is a winning strategy. And look, I want to be clear. Like I said, I love this guy. We've had a lot of personal conversations, talk about our children all the time. He's an ally. Let's work with our allies and understand that even though they are on our side at times, there are blind spots. That's why we have to have this type of convening. It was said earlier that this is like fine-tuning. I call this choir rehearsal. So we have to remember our voices and understand the urgency in the work that we're doing collectively. If we can build strategies to leverage our collective power, maximize this money that has been coming down in a historic fashion, we will put such a dent in generational poverty. We will churn at the root of structural racism in a way that we have not seen in generations, and we can't miss that. We cannot miss that. I believe we are bending the arc, and that is what I see in the work that I do. My role with the governor is really just building coalitions. I'm over faith-based and community initiatives, which is really work with the people that do it on the ground, make sure they get the resources, because with all this money that comes in, it typically does not get to our community, and we have to be intentional to make that happen. I'm encouraged. This is information overload, but that's a blessing too. I'm encouraged because I know we have a chance to honor our ancestors and to set the stage for our children. And I believe we're going to get it right. I believe that. So I'll just end my part of it by saying thank you. Thank you for your humanity. Thank you for your strength in doing this heavy work. Thank you for being bold and audacious, determining to learn about the resources available and then convicting yourselves to do something with that information, to mobilize, to deploy yourselves, to deliver results, and then hold accountable those who are in positions of authority. I thank you. And from my little spot in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, I commit to doing it by your side. Thank you.
Now, why did they make the Fed close this out? I think it's probably because you're asking, did the Fed listen? For those who don't know me, I am Christopher Coes. I have the distinct honor and privilege to serve under the leadership of Secretary Pete Buttigieg as the Assistant Secretary for Transportation Policy. But that is a lot of words because it doesn't mean anything for this moment because in the space that we're in, I'm just a young black boy from Southwest Georgia in Thomasville. So it's good to be back in my roots. I want to, having listened to the many lyrics of what has been a melody in all of our hearts, I am now being led to say the following. So one of the things that is important not only about this session, but the people in this room and those who are not, we all have our own origin story. Why you do this work. And in many ways, we bury that so deep in us. It's kind of that battery that just keeps powering us through. But every now and then, you got to check on that battery. Look at it, face it, and ask yourself a question. Is this really why I need to be doing the thing that I'm doing? And for me, as I can imagine all of my federal appointees who came in day one, we are all asking that question. And it's not because we hate our jobs, because it's probably by far the best jobs we probably ever had, y'all. I'm not going to lie. We'll get that later at reception. But the work is tough. The work is tiring. But what reminds me of why I'm doing this work and why I want to share this here to kind of answer Stephanie's question of how can federal government show up and be present and be a partner in this space. When I was just a young black boy in a small town called Thomasville, Georgia. Now, if you had honey bun or wheat bread, sunbeam bread, we made that, y'all. So you're welcome. Where on a Labor Day in the early 1990s, a single woman mother working at Emmark really getting excited to get her CDL license to drive uniforms across the country, decides that, you know what, it would be really amazing on a Labor Day to make some barbecue. Decides to get up, comes to her son's room and says, I'm going to IGA. I don't even know if they're around these days, but IGA, get some good cut meat. Because back in the day, they butchered it right in front of you, right?
That's right.
Do you want to come? That son said no. Because in his head, he was going to go on that internet, that dial-up AOL internet, once his mother walked out that door, and play some game or get on AOL Instant Messenger, because that's what those kids did back in the 90s when your phone went, Deesh! You're like, I was trying to call you. Sorry, I was on the internet. You remember those days. To have that mother, like any other parent, get in that Ford 1979 LTD green. She kept it shiny and polished. Drove it out from our apartment, drove down the street. as she made her way to a downtown, designed streets, not designed for people to be able to walk or bike, but actually, like many downtowns, where these main streets became getting wider and wider just to allow people to drive faster through. She sat there patiently on a rainy day, and looking in a rearview mirror, 3 lights away, she sees this massive Ford truck coming at her. And unfortunately, she knew then that she had no ability to get away, and she was hit by a drunk driver. And unfortunately, that woman was not only severely injured and later deemed disabled, she lost her own life, not her own life, but actually had a life that she lost before a 13-year-old boy sitting in a hospital asking himself, what does this mean for me, a 80-year-old great-grandmother that we now have to take care of, but also now a mother who had a whole life ahead of her, now looking at her son, you have to take care of the family. And as I sat in front of Capitol Hill telling this story, I said, that is when I knew my why I got in transportation, why I realized from 13 to 18, biking on those same streets that put my mother in the way she was, no bike lane, carrying groceries on a bicycle, taking that bike to my church. Yes, it was every single day because Grandma loved to go to church. And in those spaces, understanding how community can actually shape a young man's perspective that despite your circumstances, you ain't poor. You are right now buried deep in the soils of this earth, and one day you will blossom. And the fruits of these elders, these adopted fathers, mothers, cousins, friends, will be a fruit that we will all appreciate. And I say that because through those years, I now, as the Assistant Secretary for Transportation Policy, working with great colleagues like Irene Marion, Maria Zimmerman, Raquel, Warner, Mike, I don't know if you're still here, Sharice, I have the responsibility now with all of my colleagues to actually help implement and oversee $660 billion into communities like mine. And just in our office alone, we have about $200 billion that I, working with the secretary, get to pick and choose where we invest, how we invest. I say that to say, because it is one of the things that reminds me of my why, but it's also important for you to understand is that it's not when you're winning, you are winning.
Come on.
And I don't even like to use win or lose. We are being blessed even in darkness. And so I want you to know that it matters who sit in these seats. And I also like to say, now, how this relates to my current job as a federal Fed is that for those who were not aware, about a year and a half ago, I sat in a room with Helen and Stephanie, and I was saying to them with my colleagues, y'all, we're doing a lot of equity action plans. We got a Justice 40 implementation. We're setting up all these NOFOs. It sounds great here in D.C., but I think we need to go to the streets. And everyone was like, yeah, we'll do that. I don't know what you're talking about. And then about a year ago, it was like, guys, I think we're doing a lot, but we got to go to the streets. And now we've now gone to 4 different locations, brought close to 600 plus philanthropic, community-based organizations in partnership with local government, state government, and most importantly, the federal government have been here every step of the way. And that is not by happenstance, that is by design. And I want you to know that because fundamentally my why is to demonstrate there is a way to truly create a federal partnership with community that leads to the transformation of those communities such that we all win.
That's right.
And so today, for me, as someone who sees a full circle, acknowledge those who came before me, who poured into me, and seeing now what is coming down the horizon, y'all, you are just one step closer to the transformation for our communities, literally funds that can eliminate every lead pipe in the country. We have funds that can make sure every Black, brown community has access to high-speed internet. We also have funds now, enough funds to ensure that in Black and brown rural places that disproportionately experience roadway deaths, like my hometown of Thomasville, Georgia, we can fix that now. And in order for us to do that, it's the hard work of taking that final step, putting our egos aside, recognizing that that organization that you didn't really want to talk to for all those times, you got to partner with, and it may look like the local government, and it may be the state DOT. But right now, the conditions in the atmosphere has created such that we can actually fix the things that are broken in our communities. Whereas I would say my colleagues, as someone who used to work, serve as one of the co-leads of the administration's Justice 40 work, Justice 40 and these disadvantaged communities is not just a destination for $1 to park. It's a roadmap to the transformation. So if I know what's wrong with the community and with all the funds, I should be able to fix it. And my hope is that we can fix it within a generation. And so that's my charge to you. Continue to partner. Know that the federal government is here. And again, the federal government is here. Because it's not by the political staff, we come and go, but the fact that we are encouraging and institutionalizing our regional, our field staff to become in relationship, not in the short term, but literally changing their performance plans and their outcomes to say, how are you fostering and strengthening long-term relationship? We're changing the rules, y'all. And many of the things that are going to happen are going to be happening long after I'm gone, Irene gone, and somebody else. But we need you, again, to take that next step because you're almost there, yeah. So with that, I really appreciate to both Stephanie and Helen. You guys have done a thing. And I can tell you, this is going to be a change that we're all going to live to love. Thank you.
So I'm going to take the elder's privilege. I'm going to take the elder's privilege and ask you to vision with me the words right quick to a song that we always sing. You just inspire me so much, baby. Sisi watu weusi watu wazuri pamoja tutashinde pamoja tutashinde. We are God's beautiful people. Together we will win. Together we will win. Together we will win. Together we will win.
going to let the elder have the final word. Helen, come on up. I just want to thank you all. There's no other way that we could have really closed out this convening. As Christopher shared, this is our last convening that we've been doing. We started in New England. We came to the Midwest, and I'm in tears in the South, and I didn't expect anything else. But I just want to offer gratitude. 2 years ago, when the infrastructure bill got signed, I was coming off of maternity leave, and Helen was like, hey, we got to build. What are we doing? And I was like, I don't know what you're doing. We can't do anything else. And I was like, in order for us to do this, we're going to need to have an alliance. You talking about a fund. We need TA providers. We got to figure out what the federal government is doing. It's a lot of different pieces. And so she was like, okay, so are you ready? But as I was holding my daughter, I was thinking to myself, I have to fight for her future. If I don't answer the call, then what am I here for? I've had the privilege to work at every level of government. I know how systems work. I know what it means to organize. I know how hard it is. But in this moment, we don't have another way. We are too close to what can be, I want to bring Nathaniel, not just systems change, but systems transformation. We have a president who is talking about racial justice. I worked for the first Black president, and I couldn't say race. We have a president who is talking about climate change. How can I not do the work? There are so many people who came before me who have fought and died and could not see this day. And I'm seeing a passage of things that we fought for generations. I sat in spaces as a culture bearer where I remember the stories of Mrs. Celia, Mr. Marvin, and Rondo and Philly, who they didn't talk about they can remember. They were the ones who were standing in front of the bulldozers that did take out their neighborhoods. And so to go back to them, and now we're talking about how much money would it take? And we're talking about billions. Reconnecting Communities is a $1 billion program. When I worked on it 5 years ago, I had no money. I just had volunteers of federal agency staff. But even that was enough to ignite a different conversation in 5 years. So when we talk about that bamboo and what we are seeding in this moment, we have everything that we need. To stand here and not call up Helen would be a missed opportunity, because in part we are here and Communities First exists because she chose to step out on faith. She said that if we do this right, we don't need to exist. Sometimes you just need to have someone who could give you a vision. It's easy to talk about barriers, I'm here, I'm a disruptor, but there's something about being with builders and visionaries. You heard folks who are imagining new ways that the federal government works, folks who are working at the state level, folks who are thinking about how do we even imagine in new ways? What does it look like for us to put out a 10-year plan and resource that? You have folks who are saying, I have no other choice, and we know that we work with nothing. But this is an opportunity to work with something. So I hope that what you take from this is your why and answer the call to do something different and being able to activate and mobilize for progress. That is my offering. I want to thank you all for your time. If you do nothing else, please make sure you share, even with one other person, what you've learned today. Thank you. I'm going to give you the final word, and you can do the announcements as well for the mixer. Thank you. There you go. Yes, definitely. Thank you. So with that, and I'm going to say I am not going to do anything that comes close to my sister in liberation over here. So, but it is with much gratitude that I open my heart, and I'm thankful of everyone stepping into this moment, because I cannot say over and over again, this is our moment. Many of you who do know me, I never hear no. I hear, how are we gonna do that? So, and for me, that is the way. And it has been a beautiful thing to watch, that the way has been, how do we get in relationship? How do we be intentional? And how do we build? The system will always try to push us down, but remember, I don't hear no. What I hear is the system wants to be moved out of the way and dismantled. And I thank all of you for being part of that journey. And more importantly, I thank my sister in liberation. All right. So with that, I want for us to take a moment to now celebrate a little bit, lift a glass. So